Before you judge me, before you choose sides, let me ask you something. What would you do if the home you built for peace suddenly became a battlefield? And what if the person trying to take it from you was your own daughter? I still remember that morning. Rain tapping softly against the window, like nervous fingers knocking on a secret door. My hands were trembling as I held the keys. These old hands have held many things. Babies, broken letters, death certificates, but never something this heavy. I'm your grandma now, yes. But once, I was a woman who believed sacrifices always came back as blessings. This house was supposed to be my final reward. I bought it quietly. No celebration. No announcement. Just me, the realtor, and a silence that felt expensive. Marble floors that echoed my footsteps, tall windows that swallowed the sky, and a staircase that looked like it belonged to another life. A better one. I told myself this is where I'll finally breathe. But breathe is not what I did. The night before move-in day my phone rang. One ring. Then silence. Then another ring. I knew that rhythm. Only one person called like that. My daughter. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Mom, you're not moving into that house. I laughed. A soft grandma laugh. The kind meant to hide fear. What do you mean, sweetheart? There was a pause. I heard something in the background, footsteps. Slow, deliberate. I'm taking it, she said. That house belongs to me now. The candle beside me flickered. The flame bent sideways like it was listening too. I asked her why. I begged her to explain. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just said something that froze my blood. You don't remember what you did there. Did there mean the house? Because I had never stepped inside it before. After that call I couldn't sleep. I walked through my old apartment, touching the cracked walls, the faded photos. One picture stopped me. My daughter as a child standing in front of a house I didn't recognize. Same staircase. Same window shape. My chest tightened. I pulled out the documents again. New construction. Fresh ownership. No past, at least that's what they told me. So why did my daughter sound like she was already living inside it? I went there alone the next morning. The sky was heavy like it knew something I didn't. The gate opened with a low groan. Inside the house smelled old. Not dust. Not paint. Something else. Memory. As I stepped inside, my heel hit something. A hollow sound beneath the marble floor. I knelt down, pressed my palm against it. A space beneath the floor. Who builds a luxury home with hidden spaces? I heard a whisper. Or maybe it was the wind. Or maybe it was the house breathing. That's when I realized something terrifying. This house didn't just belong to me. It was waiting for me. And my daughter knew why. Before I go further, tell me something. Backhand index pointing right. Do you believe houses can remember what people try to forget? Write yes or a no in the comments. And if this story has already pulled you in, if you feel that knot in your chest, backhand index pointing right, like, share, and subscribe. Because what I uncovered inside that house nearly destroyed my family. I hadn't even unlocked the first room yet. And I already felt watched. I stood there longer than I should have, my palm pressed against that cold marble floor, my heart beat louder than the rain outside. At my age, fear doesn't come rushing anymore. It arrives slowly, politely, like it plans to stay. I told myself I was imagining things. Old bones. Old nerves. Too many memories packed into one fragile body. So I stood up, straightened my coat, and whispered to myself, you paid for this house. Cannot scare you. The front door closed behind me with a dull thud. I did not close it. That sound. It traveled through the house, climbing the walls, slipping under doors, settling in corners like dust. I suddenly felt small inside all that space. Luxury homes are supposed to feel open. This one felt tight, like it was gently squeezing me, testing how much pressure I could take. I walked slowly. Each step echoed back a second later, as if someone else was following me, copying my movements but never quite catching up. The air was cold, though the heating system was brand new. My breath fogged faintly, and that's when I noticed something strange. The hallway smelled like old paper. Not mold. Not dampness. Paper. Books. Diaries. I followed the scent, my hand trailing along the wall. The paint was smooth, but underneath, there were bumps. Hidden outlines. As if something had once been nailed there and carefully erased. At the end of the hallway was a door. It was different from the others. The others were white, modern, clean. This one was dark wood, and it was locked. I frowned. New houses don't come with locked rooms. I checked my keys. One small silver key hung on the ring, separate from the rest. I didn't remember being given it, but my fingers knew it. They reached for it without asking me. That scared me more than anything else. As I slid the key into the lock, I felt a sudden pressure in my ears, like when an elevator drops too fast. A whisper brushed past my left ear. "You came back." My knees weakened. I grabbed the doorframe and laughed softly. The kind of laugh old women use when they don't want to scream. "Talk to yourself," I muttered. That's what lonely houses do to lonely women. The lock clicked. Inside, the room was small, intimate. No windows. Only a single lamp hanging from the ceiling, already turned on, casting a warm yellow circle on a wooden desk. Someone had been here. Recently. The dust on the floor was disturbed. A chair pulled slightly back. And on the desk, a diary. Brown leather. Worn edges. The kind they don't sell anymore. I picked it up, my hands shaking. The leather felt soft. Familiar. Like an old purse I'd once loved. I opened the first page. And my breath vanished. It was my handwriting. Not similar. Mine. The slant. The pressure. Even the little tremble in certain letters I developed after my 40s. The first line read, "If I ever forget this place, it means I survived it." My vision blurred. I turned the page. Dates. Years ago. Before this house was supposedly built. Before I supposedly ever came here. Page after page spoke of sleepless nights, locked doors, a child crying somewhere below the floor. My chest tightened as I read one line out loud, my voice barely holding together. "She keeps asking me why we can't leave. I don't know how to tell her the truth." "She," I whispered. A memory stirred. Not clear. Just a feeling. A small hand gripping my finger too tightly. A child afraid of the dark. Suddenly something creaked behind me. I turned. The door was still open. The hallway empty. But the lamp flickered. And I heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Not upstairs. Below. From under the floor. My heart slammed so hard I thought it might break my ribs. I dropped the diary. It fell open on a marked page. One sentence was circled again and again, the ink pressing through the paper. "If she ever comes back here as an adult, she must never enter the basement." Basement? I hadn't seen a basement listed in the property details. The footsteps stopped. Silence rushed in, thick and heavy. I bent down, picked up the diary again, and that's when something slipped from between the pages. An old photograph. I recognized myself instantly, younger, thinner, eyes exhausted. And beside me, my daughter. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. We were standing inside this very house. Behind us, scratched into the wall, was a word that made my throat close. Mine. That's when my phone vibrated. A message. From my daughter. "Mom, please stop. If you remember everything, I won't be able to protect you anymore." Protect me? From what? Before I could reply, the lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the room. And from beneath the floor, I heard a child's voice whisper, "Grandma, why did you leave me here?" My knees gave out. I sank to the floor, clutching the diary to my chest, rocking back and forth like I used to when my babies cried and I didn't know how to help them. Because suddenly, I knew something. This house wasn't new. And the thing trapped inside it remembered me very well. I stayed on that floor longer than I cared to admit, rocking like a frightened child, the diary pressed against my chest as if it could protect me from the dark. My knees ached. My back screamed. But fear kept me still. When you reach my age, you learn something important: panic wastes energy. And energy is precious. So I breathed. Slow. Shallow. Quiet. The darkness felt alive. Not attacking me, not yet. Just watching. Waiting to see what choice I would make. "All right," I whispered, my voice shaking but steady enough to fool myself. "You wanted me to remember. I'm remembering." The air shifted. I swear it did. I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the room and landed on the floorboards. That's when I saw it clearly. A thin metal ring embedded into the wood, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. A trapdoor. My heart sank into my stomach. I knelt, my joints protesting, and pulled. It didn't open easily. Whatever was below didn't want visitors. But old women are stubborn creatures. We survive wars, marriages, childbirth, funerals. A piece of wood would not defeat me. With a sharp tug it gave way. Cold air rushed up, carrying a smell that made my eyes burn. Damp stone, rust, and something sour underneath. Regret, maybe. Or secrets that had been rotting for years. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. This was no luxury basement. This was something added later. Hidden. I stood at the top step, gripping the railing, my legs trembling. And then, like a cruel joke, a memory cracked open in my mind. My daughter's voice. Small. Angry. Crying. "You promised we'd leave, Mom." I squeezed my eyes shut. "No," I whispered. "That's not real. That's just imagination." But the diary in my hand felt heavier now, as if it agreed with the memory. Step by step I went down. Each step creaked differently, like it had its own personality. The walls were rough stone, scratched with lines, tall ones, short ones. Counting marks. Someone had been counting days down here. At the bottom was a single bulb, flickering weakly, and beneath it, a metal door. Thick. Industrial. Locked with a heavy bolt. My chest tightened. I didn't want to open it. I knew that deep down. But my hands moved anyway, reaching into my coat pocket. The silver key. Of course. My fingers shook so badly it took 3 tries to get it into the lock. When it finally turned, the sound echoed through the basement like a gunshot. The door opened slowly. Inside was a small room. No windows. Just a mattress on the floor, stained and thin. Chains hung loosely from the wall, old and used now but once necessary. And drawings. Child's drawings. Crayon scribbles covered the walls. Houses. Stick figures. A woman with long hair and dark eyes standing beside a little girl. And in every single picture, the house had no doors. I dropped to my knees. "No," I whispered again, louder now. "I would never. I couldn't." The diary slipped from my hands and fell open to a page I hadn't read yet. The ink was darker here, pressed hard, angry. She saw what I did. She knows. I have to keep her safe. Even if she hates me. My breathing turned shallow. I couldn't feel my fingers. Safe? From what? That's when I heard movement above me. Footsteps. Not whispers this time. Not imagination. Real footsteps. Coming down the stairs. Slow. Familiar. "Mom!" My daughter's voice called softly from the darkness above. I froze. "Please," she said. "Don't open everything. Some memories don't heal. They infect." Tears streamed down my face. "Why didn't you tell me?" I cried. "Why did you let me buy this place?" She laughed. A broken, hollow sound. "Because you already owned it. You just forgot." The bulb flickered violently, plunging the room into half-darkness. For a moment I thought I saw a shadow move behind the chains. Taller than a child. Wrong in shape. My daughter reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped when she saw the open door. Her face went pale. "You remembered the basement," she whispered. "That means it's too late. Tell me," I begged her. "Tell me what I did." She swallowed hard, tears pooling in her eyes. "You didn't build this house to live in, Mom. You built it to hide." "Hide what?" She stepped aside and pointed to the far wall. A section of stone was cracked. Loose. Behind it, something dark waited. Something that breathed. And then from inside that crack a voice, not a child's, not human enough, whispered my name the way only family can. "Grandma. You promised I'd never be alone again." My daughter grabbed my arm, her grip iron strong. "We don't have time," she hissed. "It wakes when you remember." I looked at her, really looked at her, and finally understood the fear she'd been carrying all these years. She wasn't trying to steal my house. She was trying to keep the thing inside it from remembering me back. And as the wall began to shift, stone grinding against stone, I realized the truth far too late. I didn't buy this house again. I returned to finish what I failed to end. The wall cracked open with a sound like bones snapping. I felt it in my teeth before I heard it. That grinding pressure, that slow, deliberate movement of stone being forced apart by something patient. Something that had waited years for this moment. My daughter pulled me back so hard I almost fell. "Don't look," she whispered, her breath hot against my ear. "It learns faster when you look." But of course, I looked. Because I am a grandmother. And grandmothers carry guilt the way houses carry foundations. Deep, heavy, impossible to remove. Behind the wall was not a room. Not exactly. It was a cavity. A hollow space carved into the earth itself, like the house had grown around it instead of over it. The air coming out was warm. Breathing warm. It smelled faintly of iron and old tears. And there were mirrors. Small ones. Broken ones. Hung unevenly along the stone like offerings. I gasped. That's when my daughter screamed. "Turn away," she cried. "Mom, please." But it was too late. In one of the mirrors I saw myself. Not as I am now. Younger. Desperate. Eyes hollowed by sleepless nights and terrible decisions. My hair pulled back too tight. My jaw clenched like I was holding a scream inside my mouth. And behind that version of me, something stood too close. It wasn't a child anymore. It was tall now. Wrongly tall. Its limbs stretched thin, joints bent in ways that made my stomach turn. But its face was familiar. It had my daughter's eyes. I collapsed. My daughter knelt beside me, shaking me gently. "Mom, listen to me," she begged. "This is the part you erased. This is why I never look in mirrors. It copies what it sees." My mouth opened, but only a sob came out. "What did I do?" I whispered. "Please tell me." She swallowed, her hands trembling. "You didn't lock a child down here," she said. "You locked it." The word echoed. She helped me sit up, keeping my head turned away from the mirrors. "When I was little," she continued, her voice cracking, "you kept saying there was something wrong with me, that I talked to things that weren't there, that I blamed my bad dreams on shadows." I remembered flashes now, mirrors covered with sheets, candles burning at all hours, me praying without knowing who I was praying to. "You found out," she said, "about the thing that follows women in our family, the thing that feeds on grief. It attached itself to me, but it came from you." The creature behind the wall shifted. The mirrors rattled. I pressed my palms to my ears. "No," I cried. "I would remember something like that." "That's why you don't," she snapped gently. "You made sure you wouldn't." She reached into her bag and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Slowly, carefully, she unfolded it. A cassette tape. Handwritten label. "Forgetting ritual, do not interrupt." My handwriting. "You recorded it," she said. "So you believe yourself when you were older. But you also erased the memory after. You thought if you forgot, it would stop growing." The thing behind the wall laughed. A wet, distorted sound like air forced through a throat that wasn't built for speech. "Grandma," it crooned, mimicking the voice I heard before. "You promised to come back." My daughter stood up, placing herself between me and the opening. "It wants you," she said. "It always did. I just kept it busy with fear." I stared at her. At the lines of exhaustion carved into her face. At the child who grew up guarding her own mother from a memory. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. She nodded once. "I know." The mirrors began to crack one by one. Reflections splintered into dozens of versions of me. Crying, screaming, younger, older, crueler. The house groaned above us. "It's waking fully now," my daughter said. "You remembering broke the last seal. What happens if I stay?" I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. "Then it finishes what it started. Takes you. And then it comes for me again." "And if I don't?" She hesitated. "Then you have to do what you refused to do the first time." The creature lunged against the wall, stone dust falling like ash. I closed my eyes. For the first time in decades, I stopped running from my own memory. "I know what I have to do," I said. My daughter grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "Mom, once you start, you may not come back." I smiled at her. A tired grandmother smile. The kind that says I've lived long enough to choose someone else. "That's all right," I whispered. "I already took too much from you." As the mirrors shattered and the house screamed, I stepped forward toward the thing I had buried. Not to hide it again, but to end it. The moment I stepped forward, the air changed. It thickened, pressing against my skin like wet fabric. The mirror stopped shattering and went unnaturally still, as if the house itself was holding its breath to see whether I would truly remember or run again. I did neither. I stood. And suddenly the memory came back. Not in pieces, not gently, But all at once, like a door ripped off its hinges, I remembered the night I learned the truth. I was younger then, exhausted, alone. My husband had already left by that point, claiming I had changed. What he meant was that I no longer slept, no longer laughed, no longer looked at mirrors without fear. Because I had started seeing it. Not clearly. Never clearly. Always just behind me. In reflections. In glass. In the dark surface of turned-off televisions. A shape stitched together from grief, regret, and the parts of myself I hated most. And when my daughter was born, it followed her. She cried at shadows. Spoke to corners. Drew pictures of things no child should imagine. Doctors said it was trauma. Priests said it was imagination. But an old woman at a candle shop said something different. It feeds on women who swallow pain, she whispered to me. And it passes from mother to daughter when the mother refuses to face it. That was the first ritual. Candles. Salt. Mirrors turned to the wall. I was told I could trap it, but only if I was willing to give it something real. Something permanent. I wasn't. So I did the cowardly thing. I buried it. I built this house around the hollow where it anchored itself. I sealed it with rituals half-finished, protections incomplete. I told myself that walls and forgetting were stronger than truth. They weren't. Now, standing in that basement with my daughter watching me the way children watch storms, hoping they pass, fearing they won't, I finally understood what the ritual demanded. It didn't want my life. It wanted my ownership. The creature shifted, its shape trembling as if excited. The mirrors behind it reflected dozens of versions of me stepping forward, each one braver than the last. You remember now, it said, its voice layered, mine, my daughter's, my mother's. That means you belong to me again. No, I whispered. It means I finally belong to myself. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out something I had been carrying without knowing why. A small bundle of dried herbs. Salt. A folded page torn from the diary. My hands moved on instinct, following steps I had once learned and forced myself to forget. I placed the salt in a circle. I burned the herbs. I read the words aloud, not loudly but clearly. The house began to shake. Above us something crashed. A chandelier maybe, or a lie finally falling apart. My daughter cried out. Mom, the house. I know, I said gently. It has to. The creature screamed, not in pain but in rage. You promised, it shrieked. You promised I wouldn't be alone. Tears streamed down my face. I promised you hiding, I said. And that was the cruelest thing I could have done. I stepped fully into the circle. The mirrors exploded inward, shards flying like birds. The creature lunged, but stopped at the edge of the salt, snarling, twisting, unraveling as if my acknowledgement was burning it. This ends with truth, I said, my voice stronger now than it had been in years. Not walls. Not silence. The ritual demanded one final thing. A name. Not its name. Mine. I am not my fear, I said. I am not my regret. I am not the pain I passed on. The creature shrieked as if struck. I am her mother, I continued, looking back at my daughter. And I choose to protect her, even if it costs me everything. The floor cracked. The walls screamed. The house began to collapse inward, not violently but deliberately, like it was folding itself shut. Mom! My daughter sobbed, rushing toward me. I smiled at her. Truly smiled. Go, I said. This place has nothing left for you. She hesitated. Then the ceiling split open. Light poured down, blinding and beautiful. She ran. The last thing I saw before the floor gave way was my daughter reaching the stairs, turning back once, just once, with a look I will carry forever. Not fear. Relief. As the basement caved in and the creature screamed itself into silence, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was young. Peace. Not happiness. Peace. And as everything went dark, I thought, if I don't survive this, at least she will. Darkness didn't come all at once. It crept in slowly, like a blanket being pulled over my face by gentle hands. I expected pain. Crushing weight, the final snap of bones. Instead, I felt warmth. Not heat. Warmth. The kind you feel when someone sits beside your bed and doesn't speak, just stays. I floated in that quiet for a long time, unsure if I was breathing, unsure if I still needed to. Then I heard my name. Not the creature's voice. not the echo of memory. My daughter. Mom. Mom, please open your eyes. I wanted to tell her I was tired, that old women are allowed to rest. But my body betrayed my thoughts. My fingers twitched. My chest rose. And pain rushed in like it had been waiting its turn. I screamed. My eyes flew open to blinding white light. Machines beeped angrily. My throat burned. My bones screamed louder than my voice ever could. Hospital. I was alive. My daughter collapsed against my bed, sobbing the way she hadn't since she was little. They said you wouldn't make it, she cried. They said there was nothing left of the house. Nothing left of you. I swallowed hard. The house. I whispered. She froze. Then she shook her head slowly. Mom, there is no house. She told me everything over the next few days. The story changed depending on who you asked: firefighters, police, city officials. Some said it was a sinkhole. Some said a gas explosion. Some said the address never existed at all. That part bothered everyone the most. According to city records, zoning maps, satellite images, there had never been a structure on that land. Just empty ground. No luxury home. No basement. No foundation. They found me unconscious in the dirt. My body bruised and broken like I'd fallen from somewhere high. My daughter was screaming, clawing at the earth like she was trying to dig me back out of the world. And the thing? No mirrors. No walls. No cavity. Nothing. Except one object clenched in my hand. The diary. Mine. Every doctor said the same thing. Trauma-induced hallucinations. Repressed memory. Shared delusion. My daughter stopped correcting them. So did I. Some truths don't need witnesses. Weeks passed. My body healed faster than my mind. At night I still smelled damp stone. Still heard counting beneath my dreams. But something was different. The fear was gone. One evening, my daughter sat beside my bed and held my hand the way I once held hers. It's quiet now, she said softly. Inside my head. For the first time. I closed my eyes. Tears slipped out anyway. I'm sorry, I whispered again. She squeezed my hand. I know. That's when she told me the last detail she'd been afraid to share. When the ground collapsed, she said. I saw it. Just for a second. My breath caught. It wasn't trapped, she continued. It was shrinking. Like it couldn't survive without you being afraid of it. I nodded slowly. Fear feeds memory, I murmured. And memory feeds monsters. She studied me carefully. You're not afraid anymore. No, I said. I'm not. The doctors discharged me weeks later. They offered therapy, medication, support groups. I declined politely. I didn't need to forget anymore. For the first time in my life, forgetting wasn't my survival strategy. My daughter drove me to a small rental apartment near the ocean. Simple. Bright. No mirrors facing mirrors. No locked rooms. No basements. On the first night, as I unpacked, something fell from the diary. A final page. I didn't remember writing it. If you are reading this, it means you chose truth over silence. The cycle ends with you. I sat on the bed and laughed. Then cried. Then laughed again. Outside, the waves crashed rhythmically, endlessly. Not threatening. Just real. I looked at my reflection in the window, older, thinner, scarred. But whole. Still, sometimes late at night I wonder, if the house truly never existed, why does the ground where it stood remain fenced off? Why do birds refuse to land there? And why, every once in a while, when the lights are off and the window turns into a mirror, do I see a shadow behind me that doesn't move when I do? I didn't tell my daughter about the shadow. Some truths are not meant to be shared. Not because they're dangerous, but because they're heavy. And she had already carried enough weight for one lifetime. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into quiet mornings where sunlight spilled across the floor like forgiveness. I began a routine: tea at dawn, walks by the ocean, writing in the diary every night so nothing inside me would ever be forced into hiding again. That diary became my mirror. And mirrors, I had learned, only become dangerous when you refuse to look honestly. One evening, as the sky bled orange into purple, my daughter asked me something that stopped my heart. Mom, do you ever feel like it's still watching? I set my cup down slowly. No, I said. And for the first time it was true. She smiled, not wide, not loud, but free. And in that moment I knew the ritual had worked in the only way that truly mattered. The curse didn't end because I destroyed something. It ended because I claimed something. My fear. My guilt. My past. That night, I opened the diary to write one final entry. But the page was already filled. Fresh ink. My handwriting. You did well this time. My breath caught. I flipped backward, frantic now. The previous pages were unchanged. Old. Familiar. Only the last page was new. I laughed softly, shaking my head. No, I whispered. You don't get to scare me anymore. The shadow appeared behind me in the dark window. Not tall. Not twisted. Small. Fading. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It simply existed like a scar you notice only when you go looking for it. I remember you, I said calmly. And that's all you are now. A memory. The shadow thinned, unraveling like smoke caught in a breeze. And then it was gone. Not sealed. Not buried. Not forgotten. Understood. That's the part people never tell you. Evil doesn't always need to be defeated. Sometimes it just needs to be seen clearly. I closed the diary and placed it in a drawer that does not lock. Because nothing in my life needs to be locked away anymore. If you're listening to me now, really listening, let me leave you with this from one grandmother's trembling but honest heart. The things we hide don't disappear. They grow teeth. They learn our names. But the moment we face them, they shrink back into stories. And stories can't hurt us anymore. I'm still here. Still breathing. Still remembering. Still choosing truth. And this time, the house does not own me. I own myself.